while Da Vinci and Michelangelo are probably the most famous artists and are known even by people who know nothing about art, or Picasso and Van Gogh, who are pretty much household names. Many famous female artists in history have not achieved the same level of worldwide fame. To be fair, if I ask you to write down 5 female painters from the Renaissance, you would probably in the best case write 2 or 3. So let's see how many female painters from the Renaissance do you know? No cheating. Okay, I will help you with one suggestion. Sophronis Boanguissola. She is one of the few female Renaissance artists who has received global recognition for her contribution to art. Now, before we continue, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified for more videos like this one. Okay, after you subscribed, we can continue. As we know, due to historical suppression and gender bias in the art world, a lot of women artists go unrecognized during their lifetime and beyond. However, with the recent presence of artists like Frida Kahlo in pop culture, there is a newfound interest in all those women who made a big impact on the art world. Today, we are going back in time to see 6 wonderful female artists and what makes them so special. Born on the cusp of the Baroque era, Artemisia Gentileschi created highly dramatic, at times blood-ridden scenes that some consider to be more striking than any painted by woman before. Many attribute this to the fact she was molested, at the age of 19, by her much older teacher and friend of her artist father. Interestingly enough for their times, she took him to court and won the trial. It has been argued that she projected herself into her scenes of powerful women, many of whom were often exacting revenge. Today, she is recognized as one of the most skilled of Caravaggio's followers. In 1616 she joined Florence's Academy of Design, and was the first woman to do so. While in Florence she began to develop her own distinct style. Unlike many other women artists of the 17th century, she specialized in history painting rather than still life and portraiture. In Florence she was associated with the Medici court and painted an allegory of inclination for the series of frescoes honoring the life of Michelangelo in the Casa Buonarroti. With a career that spanned a staggering 40 years, Gentileschi's canvases were never timid. In the past, scholars argued it was hard to believe a woman was behind these canvases, though her triumphant portrayals of biblical and Roman heroines were seemingly unlikely to have been painted by a man. Her determined, psychologically advanced depictions and stunning lighting effects, a la Caravaggio, showed her formidable skills as a painter. Shengshu was one of the few women in pre-modern China to earn a reputation as a painter. She is considered the first female painter of Qing dynasty as well as the inaugurator of Xushui school painting style. Apart from her artistic works, she was also the mother of the poet Qian Chengkun. After the early death of her husband, Shen raised her son by herself. When the latter became a prominent statesman in the court of the Qianlong Emperor, he introduced the emperor to his mother's paintings. Through this avenue she became favored by Qianlong, and many of her works were featured in the Imperial Collection, today in both the Palace Museum in Beijing and the National Palace Museum in Taipei. Shen painted figures, landscapes, and flower and bird paintings. Later in life she focused mainly on landscape paintings. Landscape paintings by women during this time were rare because women were unable to travel as often as men. Though Shengshu most likely did not have much chance to travel due to her sex, she took the time to study landscape painting of male artists. Ike Geocaron is one of the most influential and important female painters in world of classic Japanese culture. Born in 1727, Geocaron created most of her works in Kyoto, where she is still a much-lauded hometown hero. Her efforts in the world of calligraphy and poetry were very much admired, however it is her contribution to the evolution of Southern painting that cemented her reputation. Flourishing during the Edo period, this high-end style of painting was greatly influenced by classic Chinese culture. Geocaron and her husband Tiger dedicated themselves to making art, and sometimes collaborating on art pieces. The couple were renowned for their eccentricity. They created art together, mutually influencing each other, and were also known to play music together for leisure, as equals. This was highly unusual in a country where women were still widely considered inferior to men. It is noted that Geocaron did not shave her eyebrows, as was customary for married women at the time. She lived with Tiger in a small studio next to the giant shrine in Kyoto. Geocaron created folding screens, handheld scrolls, hanging scrolls, and fan paintings. She also often painted small scenes, on which she inscribed her poems in calligraphy. Delicate, rhythmic and effortlessly sleek, Geocaron's style can still be seen on many classic Japanese items even today. The daughter of a French pastel portraitist, Elisabeth Louise Vigée was born in Paris in 1755. In her memoirs, she describes how she was attracted to drawing from a very early age. Her father's early death, however, and the inability for women to receive training as an apprentice or in the academy, meant that the artist was virtually self-taught. From such inauspicious beginnings, Vivece Lebrun developed into one of the leading artists in all of Europe. Vivece Lebrun's fame was secured in 1778 when she was summoned to paint her first portrait of the young Queen Marie Antoinette. From that point, Vivece Lebrun was the Queen's favorite portraitist, creating 30 portraits over the next decade. Furthermore, thanks to Marie Antoinette, Lebrun, at the age of 28 was received as a member of the Académie Royale de Peinture et de Sculpture. She was one of only 15 women to be granted full membership in the Academy. The Rococo style was in decline by the time of Elisabeth Vigée Lebrun's introduction to the French royal court. In her able hands, however, she deftly combined the grace and elegance of this earlier style with the composure and decorum of the nascent trend of neoclassicism. In all, the prodigious artist produced approximately 800 paintings with a long list of royal patrons actively seeking her flattering portrayals across Europe, including Catherine the Great of Russia. Although the portraits of Vigée Lebrun might look traditional to contemporary viewers, she was not shy in breaking established norms in the genre. For example, the welcoming gestures and slightly open-mouthed smile, as if in greeting, found in many of her portraits caused quite a stir when debuted. What first caused scandal, however, soon became style, as the pleasing naturalism and relaxed manner of Vigée Lebrun's portraits became immensely popular among the elite and trademark of the artist's distinctive style. This African-American sculptor associated with the Harlem Renaissance was the very first black artist to join the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors. She was also a teacher and inspired the careers of a flourishing generation of artists. Moreover, she was a champion of equal rights for black people in the arts. In 1929, she was permitted to study in France, and upon her return, she founded her own art studio and school. In 1932, she founded the Savage Studio of Arts and Crafts, which became a training ground for African-American artists who would later show at her gallery. Her studio was the foundation of some of the best-known Harlem Renaissance artists. In 1934, Savage became the first African-American elected to the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors, now National Association of Women Artists. In 1937 she became the first director of the Harlem Community Art Center, which was established under the Works Progress Administration Federal Art Project, WPA/FAP. The Art Center in Harlem played a crucial role in the development of many young black artists. Savage also fought successfully for the inclusion of black artists in WPA projects. Savage, who died in 1962, said that her lasting monument would be the artwork of the young people she taught. Lois May Ilou Jones enrolled in the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, in Boston, and went on to become the first African American to graduate from it. Showing great talent from a young age, she held her first solo exhibition when she was 18 and worked as an assistant to the costume designer Grace Ripley. However, the racial bias she faced held her back, until she was finally recruited to work at Howard University, which would become the birthplace of the Harlem Renaissance. She eventually became one of the school's most eminent professors. In 1937 she spent a year at the Académie Julian in Paris, perfecting her art, where she adopted outdoor painting, working with the painter Émile Bernard. Her Parisian street scenes, painted in an impressionist style, such as Place du Tertre, were admired at the 1938 edition of the Salon des Indépendants. It was during her stay in France that she discovered African art, which was very popular at the time in Parisian galleries. After returning to New York, Jones chose to focus her work on the everyday lives of African Americans. The dignity that emanates from the figure of the old man about to be lynched in her mob victim, meditation, and the beauty of the young woman cleaning a fish in Jenny, earned her widespread critical and public acclaim. What other great female artists do you know? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Fun Facts History channel and ring the bell to get notified for another similar content. Thank you for watching.